What's up, y'all? It's me, it's your boy, and today I'm bringing you a build from Guild Wars 1, the Assassin. Now, the reason it's called the Assassin is because you're actually using two daggers, and that's how Assassins played in Guild Wars 1. So, yeah, it's a lot of people really want to play Dagger in Guild Wars 2 for that same reason, because it just feels like it just works out for the class thematically. So finally, thanks to the new Shadow Arts rework, you can actually do that, because before it was too clunky, but now with the new Shadow Arts and the Smokescreen utility, you can actually kind of get stealth reliably, because Cloak and Dagger was a little bit unreliable, because it's easily dodged or blind, and it's kind of a slow animation. So because of Shadow Arts, this is allowed. So I'm going to go through the traits. It's pretty much normal stuff, right? Trickery, the normal traits. And because you're Core Thief, your steal is 1200 range. So it allows you to do long range Cloak and Dagger, steal, backstab combos like you used to be able to do with Dash DP. Which you can't really do anymore because Swipe is 600 range. By the way, make Swipe 900 range. And yeah, you're using Even the Odds, obviously, because you're going to be doing a lot of backstabs, because you're going to be in stealth a lot. So I really like this trait, Even the Odds, because it really scales well with Shadow Arts. It scales well with anything that's using sneak attacks. And as you can see, Shadow Arts also has some pretty good sneak attack synergy, though I'm not using Rending Shade, which would be even more synergy, because I feel that the times that the fear gets off isn't really enough. Like, it's pretty unreliable, whereas getting regeneration and healing every time you stealth is very reliable, right? You see effects of this way more often than you see effects from this. And then the boons stolen, yeah, that's kind of good, but in my opinion, if you're stealing to someone, you're already getting all the good boons from them, right? Because of Bountiful Theft's priority system. So I don't think it's really that good to steal 2 extra boons when you do like a steal backstab combo, though you would get more backstabs than you steal, so it's not necessarily true, but you get what I mean. It's just a less reliable trait for this kind of build, because it's more of a melee build, right? So you need that regen and stuff. So yeah, normal traits: Mug, Improv, Even the Odds, and then when you get to Shadow Arts, you have Shadow's Embrace, and what this means is you don't need to take Sigil or Signet of Agility, which is really necessary on pretty much every other thief build, because they don't have on-demand Condi Cleanse. And this build doesn't really have on-demand, right? You have to get into stealth, but because of Concealing Restoration, you do. Whenever you use your healing skill, you will be put into stealth right at the end. And you have to be careful with this, because it's kind of like a animation after your heal, so you use it and then you go into stealth, like slightly after. So you have to make sure you don't get hit by some kind of wall that'll interrupt your heal, because that'll prevent you from going in stealth. Also, another thing to remember is whenever you use your heal and you're going to try to go for a backstab, if you spam 1 right after, you might accidentally use the non-sneak attack ability, because it'll precast it sort of while you're not in stealth, and then it'll reveal you, and then you won't be able to use your backstab. So you got to be careful of the timing of your backstab combos with your heal skill. And then obviously you get longer duration stealth from whenever you use stealth skills, and your movement speed is increased by 50%, which is essentially super speed while in stealth. And why that's really good is because it allows you to land your backstabs very easily without having requiring you to steal with it, right? So a lot of the time you're actually going to be in stealth, and your steal isn't going to be off cooldown because you have a lot of ways to get stealth. So having extra movement allows you to position your backstabs and get a lot of value from this trait, which will give you might from that, and just the fact that landing a backstab is really good, right? Because it does damage. So yeah, and then I take spider venom or leeching venoms on the second line. Obviously Shadow Savior isn't going to be that good because you're not porting at all, and this isn't really good anyways if you're porting. And the Flickering Shadows trait is pretty good because you'll be revealing yourself quite often, but I think that you get more aggressive potential from leeching venoms anyways, because like if you're taking damage you're probably dead anyways because you're a thief. You want to avoid taking damage in the first place. So I mean, this is really good if you're going against a Sikkim Ranger maybe, or like a Hollow, because they'll reveal you, and when you get revealed you're really vulnerable to them. So it's only really good versus those two classes. But this is good versus everything, right? Because every time you go in stealth, you're getting stacks of poison, and that gives you leeching, which gives you damage, and it also gives you poison, which means weakness because of Lotus Poison in Deadly Arts. So in a way, it's kind of like better than Flickering Shadows if you play well, because this is like a kind of like a passive effect, and this is kind of like an active. So if you're landing your poisons and you're getting weakness off, then you're preventing a lot of damage from your targets. But obviously, they're both situationally different. So next, you have Shadow Siphoning. It just gives you 500 life siphon whenever you stealth attack. This is pretty good. That's about it. Which is pretty okay. And then obviously Shadow Rejuvenation, because you gain initiative while in stealth, and this is kind of like an initiative heavy build because you're going to be spamming Cloak and Dagger and Heartseekers a lot, and Dancing Daggers as well. You just want to be spamming because you don't really have the same kind of utility as Dagger Pistol, so you don't really, like, you're not very safe when you're on a target. Like, you backstab them and then you either need to get back out and re-stealth, or you kind of need to like spam Death Blossom to evade, which is not a very reliable evade, let's be honest. It's kind of clunky, but it's better than nothing, right? So yeah, that's all the traits. So for hold on, let me navigate this new suboptimal build panel. Alright, so Rune of the Centaur, you get swiftness on heal, which is really good because this build has only swiftness on steal. So unlike dash DP, which you have perma swiftness, this build would only get it when you steal the summon. And now you think, right, that's pretty good, right? But you're not stealing while rotating, right? Because you're stealing once you get to the place that you want to do the fight. So you need swiftness more than just when you steal. So Rune of the Centaur gives you swiftness whenever you heal, which is good because you often use your heal skill to rotate, right? Like, as soon as I get a kill in a fight, I'll like use withdraw to kind of heal up and position myself to get out of there, and that'll give you swiftness so you can rotate, and that's pretty good. It also just gives power, which is good. It's not like as good as like Scholar runes in terms of like offensive stats or just stats in general, but I don't really think that this build needs to do that because you have Assassin's Signet is pretty broken, and it kind of allows you to run Assassin's Signet because you don't need Signet of Agility because you have Shadow Arts. So that's pretty nice. And yeah, so normal just exploitation on your dagger, compounding, because you're going to be doing a decent amount of condies to your target as well. Like whenever you steal, you'll do Vallun, you'll do poison, and you'll do weakness. And then you can also do cripple and torment with dancing dagger. You can do bleeding, and yeah, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, you can blind them with Smokescreen as well. So you'll be getting a decent amount of condies on your target, which is also really good with exposed weakness, by the way, because you get an extra 2% damage to the target for each condi you have on them. So yeah, and then yeah, just short bow, normal short bow, energy cleansing, because short bow is on every thief build. So that's pretty much the build. Now, as far as skill combos and stuff, oh, and utilities. So yeah, obviously you're taking withdraw because you're core thief. Shadow step, obviously. Now, Smokescreen is pretty interesting because it was sort of changed recently, but what it does is this smoke field, and you can use it as like it's almost like you have a pistol in your offhand, right? Because you can use Smokescreen as like a black powder, and you can use that to Heartseeker through. So in a way, you can also 1v1 with Smokescreen. So for example, like say this is a node, I can put Smokescreen down on it, and the radius is 240, which is about as big as a node, and every second this is pulsing, it's doing blind. So you're pretty protected there, and that means you can also just attack them freely and Heartseeker on them and kind of like get backstabs on them while fighting on the node. Like normally a good player won't fight in your Smokescreen because it's that strong to fight in. And it's also good for blocking projectiles for your team, putting it on top of down states. So like if you get a down and then you put Smokescreen on top of the body, basically anyone can stomp that body, because the body can't CC. I mean, obviously it can port out if it's an LE thief or Mez, but it can't do anything like CC. And then if anyone tries to counter cleave, they're really hampered by the fact that there's no projectiles in the area allowed through here, and they're also getting all blind. So it's kind of like a really good team fighting ability as well, Smokescreen. And then obviously Assassin Signet, because you want to do big bursts with Assassin Signet. And yeah, it's pretty broken right now. It gives you 540 power, and if it procs with improv, you get another 180 on top of that, because you have the passive and the active at the same time. So you can do stuff like this, and yeah, that didn't crit though, so I'm never lucky. Also, that's another thing, is like you're not running Signet of Agility, which kind of gives you like a passive like 8% crit chance. So your crit chance is only going to be 55 plus 20, so 75% crit chance with Fury. And then obviously Dagger Storm, because the build doesn't really have amazing down cleave. Obviously you have short bow for down cleave, and that's really good, and you have Smokescreen, but yeah, you need Dagger Storm for those team fights as well. This is a pretty decent team fighting build as well. And yeah, so normally what you'll want to do is you'll give your team Smokescreen, you'll blast short bow into that, and then you'll go in for like a steel backstab kind of burst. And then what you can do then is you can like Heartseeker spam if they're kind of low, or if they're not low, you can help your team catch up and dancing dagger them. If you can land a cloak and dagger, reliably do it. If you can't, then you probably want to be like waiting for your cooldown, so like you'll re-stealth with withdraw, or you'll just buy time with Death Blossom spam. It's not really an amazing ability, but it has an evade on it. It has a really clunky aftercast though, so you got to be careful. You don't want to rely too much on it. But I mean, it's better than nothing, right? It's an evade. And that's one of the things that Dagger Pistol kind of lacks, right? So Sword Dagger, Sword Pistol, all have these evades on their weapon set, so they can use their initiative to evade, whereas Dagger Pistol has to only use its dodges for evade, and blinds, obviously. But blinds are a little bit less reliable than evades. So it's actually kind of nice that Death Blossom is there as an evade, because even though the skill is kind of useless, it has situations where it's useful. So yeah, that's pretty much it for like skill combos. It's pretty straightforward build, not that hard to play, but very fun to play. So yeah. So the role of the assassin dagger thief is the same as any other thief build. It's not a different role. You just +1, get kills for your team, or disengage and decap. And that's really nice because with Shadow Arts you can actually get some nice decaps because you have longer stealth duration if you choose. So at the start here, I'm going for an attack on the crossers to our home node because it looks like 2 thieves are trying to push our home, and they're pretty easy kills for me because I have a lot of burst damage and thieves are squishy. So I want to go for them rather than go to mid and try to kill something that's a little tankier. So yeah, I get a nice Heartseeker off there for the kill, and we're still kind of like 3v2ing here, so we need to finish this up and get out of here. So I'm just pressing W on this guy, and I time my steal there, but I actually get blinded by Naru, who's come in now, and he doesn't have enough damage to kill me because my heal removes Torment, and once I get into stealth, I can get a lot of Condi Cleanse. But I do have to be careful with the reveal from the Core Necro, right? Because if I get revealed, I can't get my Condi Cleanse, right? Because my Condi Cleanse requires me to be in stealth. So now I'm pushing the Surf of Valdi, who is a pistol thief, pistol whip main. And right there, I just used a Death Blossom while immobilized to dodge. Now normally you can't dodge while immobilized, right? But you can use Death Blossom while immobilized. So that prevented me from getting pistol whip there and helped me survive pretty easily there. You know, I saved myself like 7,000 health without getting pistol whip there. And that's pretty nice because other than withdraw, you don't really have any immobilize removal like on Dash Thief, right? So Death Blossom, while it's a pretty clunky skill, it actually has some uses. So yeah, that was pretty nice. I used that there, and now I'm just gonna Heartseeker spam here to get this kill. You don't really have Dagger Pistol on, so the difference between this build and like a Dagger Pistol build is your chasing potential is a lot worse, right? But you have a little bit better DPS, and you have some decent 1v1 potential in terms of the, as I said before, the Smokescreen, right? Because Smokescreen is really good at, it's like burst survivability because they can't really attack you in that. So yeah. Whenever I say something on this build, you kind of want to compare it to Dagger Pistol Thief because it's kind of like the same exact role. So when you, and obviously I'm not saying that Dagger is better, I'm just saying that this is a fun build to play, and if you're going to try to say that this build is bad, well, you might want to compare that to Dagger Pistol because I think it's pretty similar, and Dagger Pistol isn't bad. It's definitely not optimal in some situations, but it's definitely good if you know how to rotate and put yourself in the optimal situations. So here I try to steal to that flesh worm, and I try to give myself some stealth here, and I think I get revealed. by trying to blast into something, and I reveal myself by blasting. So what I should have done there was just go for like a single blast, because there's no way that I die, right? In that stealth there, I could have just disengaged, but I went greedy for the stealth, and Naru stood on top of my blast, and I revealed myself. So that was a pretty big misplay by me. But as you can see there, I have pretty good survivability. You just have to remember to not be too, because how Shadow Arts works is you have to be kind of patient, because you get sustained from being patient. So you don't want to be too aggressive with Shadow Arts. And obviously, I wasn't playing to that situation correctly. And obviously, I do a nice that was a Cloak and Dagger backstab into double Heartseeker. So that's some pretty good damage there. And yeah, I can easily handle this downstate 1v2 because of Smokescreen. And that's another reason why Smokescreen is so good. And I get a nice Heartseeker steal there as well. And I have really good single target burst because of Cloak and Dagger backstab. But yeah, as I was saying, Shadow Arts is kind of like passive in a way, but I like that they've changed Shadow Arts to be a little bit more active, and it allows this build to have aggressiveness and passiveness, so like defensive and aggressive at the same time, which kind of makes Dagger become usable, right? As before, it used to be too clunky and you didn't really have reliable stealth access. So yeah, Smokescreen is really good. It allowed me to survive in that 1v2 situation, because if I was fighting like a pistol whip thief and there's a necro in downstate, the necro would just be pressuring me really hard as I'm trying to deal with the pistol whip thief, but the Smokescreen completely invalidated the necro in downstate. He couldn't fear me. Even if I don't even have to think about dodging it, right? Because I know that the blind has that covered. So it just makes a lot of situations simpler to have that blind up, right? And yeah, it's really strong in my opinion, the Smokescreen utility. Now I'm going into mid. I'm just gonna Heartseeker steal. Obviously, I didn't really see the animations because he was really far away, so I couldn't really time it. I was just guessing there, so I missed steal to random stealing, and yeah, now I'm gonna chase this thief, and because I'm a core thief, I'm gonna try to get the steal through the wall there, but it's out of range. That's another good thing about this build, is you actually have a long range steal, so your rotational ability can be in comparison to Dagger Pistol, right? Your rotational ability is probably slower because you don't have dash, but you also have a steal, which is less predictable because it's longer range, right? So that's one of the benefits to this build. And obviously here I can just spam Cloak and Dagger on clones, and that's actually kind of a benefit. Like if there's AI and stuff, you can abuse that with Cloak and Dagger to get a lot more stealth than a Dagger Pistol build would get. And yeah, that kind of makes Mesmer matchups really easy, especially because I get Condi Cleanse on, what's it called? On stealth. So, and here, another situation simplified by Smokescreen. The Ellie can't do any damage to me, and the downstate Mesmer, well, the Ellie was doing damage to me, but the downstate Mesmer certainly couldn't. And I'm not even sure if this is how this works, but I don't think you can summon phantasms when you're blind. So the Phantasmal Rogue, which is like the big damage thing, would get blinded if they try to do that. So that's like, yeah, Smokescreen is just really good for down situations. And that just shows that off again. So I get the kill on the Mesmer, but I can't kill the Ellie 1v1. So I just rotate to mid. Pistol Whip Thief. I use some stuff there. There's not really much I can do here versus Dagger Storm, so I just leave. Go back to far. I think it's our Ranger versus a Thief and an Ellie. So I want to +1 this Thief. And I get a nice backstab here, almost. almost got it. The reason I could position that backstab really well though is because, right, the Shadow Arts passive where it gives you movement speed, it's so good. It allows you to basically save your steel, right? Because a lot of times on Dagger Pistol Thief, right, you need to use dash to position your steel if it's not going to be stolen into. So it's like dash or Shadow Arts is necessary for kind of like a dagger build to get your mobility up. And yeah, that's pretty nice because like you don't want to have to steal every time you backstab because that makes it like predictable in a way. And here I'm just like doing whatever. Like I didn't know what I was doing there, but somehow my teammate gets the kill anyways on the beast, and yeah, we move out of there. The game is actually pretty close. And I'm looking at the map at home. We have 2 Mesmers on our team at home versus, I think, is that 2 Thieves? So I think that's a pretty losing matchup there. They probably need to leave that. And at far, it's a Ranger versus an Ellie. So we have really bad matchups right now. I need to probably not cap nodes and go and influence the map. And we're already losing mid, so it's kind of like at this point, yeah, like there's no way that I can influence the map fast enough. So I go back into mid. Probably should have not went to mid, but someone needs to do it, right? Because like we need to start preventing the enemy from getting nodes. And yeah, this is a pretty good matchup for me. So I can just Dagger Storm here and Cloak and Dagger one of the clones. And I get a nice, yeah, so like the positioning of your backstab is pretty important there. There's some tricks that you gotta learn to land your backstabs, like how to turn your camera very quickly and how to lead on your opponents. So that's one of the things that's pretty important with this build that I think is pretty nice to kind of like differentiate like a skillful player between, you know, someone who's just spamming steel backstab, you know, with Heartseekers. But yeah, at this point the map is actually nuded everywhere, and I get a nice little burst on their thief, but he rotates out, and I chase him to mid, and I think I'm gonna get this kill. Maybe really low. We have mid, and our Mesmer's going for beast, it looks like, and I'm coming into far. We have a downed ally, and I see Naru's really low, so what I do is a Heartseeker steal out of my stealth, so I get a stealth stomp immediately, which is really nice because that rallies my teammate. And at this point, we've lost mid immediately, and our Mesmer's still doing the beast. The scores are even, but we need to start affecting the map right now. So yeah, this thief fighting me in roads is beneficial for them. I need to get to the node and start affecting the map, right? Where he needs to just stall the map. So yeah. At this point, yeah, like it's gonna take too long to get a Weaver off the node. Then like the game is over at this point, right? And we're also wiping everywhere else. So, you know. It was a good match, though. I think, I was 12-1, so I did pretty decently. I shouldn't have died at far that one time. I honestly should have had 0 deaths that game. But yeah, that's basically how you play the assassin build. You want to get some nice bursts off on people, and then you want to kind of stall with your Shadow Arts and make the enemy guess where you are and split the team, just like a Dagger Pistol build would.